You've prayed, you've waited, and maybe you've even wondered, why hasn't it happened yet? But here's something many people overlook. The time you spend waiting is not wasted time. In fact, it could be the most important part of the process. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows when you're ready, and He's preparing you in ways you may not even realize. Often, when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, we don't realize that the time before the answer is just as important as the answer itself. This is because Allah knows what is best for you, and He is making sure that when the time comes, you're fully ready to receive what you've asked for. In this video, we're going to reveal 5 clear signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you for what you prayed for. So before we begin, I encourage you to watch the full video without distractions. Headphones would be a great choice. These signs could be exactly what you need to understand why the answer to your prayers hasn't come just yet. First sign: uncomfortable growth. Sometimes when you've been praying for something, things might start to feel a little uncomfortable. Suddenly, you're facing challenges, unexpected changes, and situations that push you out of your comfort zone. But this isn't happening because your prayer hasn't been heard. In fact, it's the opposite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you for what's to come, and growth can't happen without a little discomfort. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "But perhaps you hate a thing, and it is good for you. And perhaps you love a thing, and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not." Let's think about that for a second. We often want things to go smoothly, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His wisdom, knows what is best for us, even when we don't. The challenges you're facing right now are shaping you, preparing you to be the person who can handle the blessings you've been asking for. You may not understand it now, but every test, every difficult moment is making you stronger, wiser, and more patient. Without these moments of discomfort, you might not be ready for what's coming. It's like a seed. Before it becomes a strong tree, it has to break through the soil, struggle to grow roots, and face the elements. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you the chance to grow, even if it feels hard right now. Second sign: your patience is being tested. One of the clearest signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you for what you've prayed for is when your patience is being tested again and again. We live in a world that craves immediate results, and it can be frustrating when you don't see things happening right away. But what if the delay isn't a denial? What if the waiting period is where the most important growth happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "Indeed, Allah is with the patient." This ayah is a powerful reminder that patience is not about waiting without purpose. It's about trusting that Allah is with you during this time, guiding and preparing you in ways you might not even realize. Every moment you spend waiting, you're being shaped into the person who will be ready to handle the blessing you've been asking for. We always want things immediately, but sometimes receiving something too soon can be harmful. Imagine receiving what you prayed for without being fully prepared. Would you be able to handle it, or would it overwhelm you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His infinite wisdom, knows the perfect time for everything, even if we don't see it. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Know that if the whole world were to gather together to give you something beneficial, they would not be able to give it to you unless Allah has decreed it for you. And if they were to gather together to harm you, they would not be able to harm you unless Allah has decreed it for you." This hadith teaches us that nothing happens outside of Allah's plan. If something is delayed, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aligning everything for the perfect moment. So while you wait, it's not just about being still. It's about actively trusting in Allah's plan. Patience doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing everything behind the scenes, ensuring that when the time comes, you'll be ready. Patience isn't passive. It's transformative. It's shaping your character, building your resilience, and strengthening your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you feel like your patience is being tested right now, know that this is Allah's way of preparing you for something bigger than you could imagine. Third sign, when your prayers seem unanswered. This is one of the most common struggles. You pray, you pour your heart out, but still nothing seems to change. You wonder, why hasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered my prayers? Am I doing something wrong? But here's what you might not realize. Allah always answers your prayers, but not always in the way you expect. The Prophet Muhammad said there's no Muslim who calls upon Allah with a supplication that does not contain any sin or cutting off of family ties. But Allah will give him one of three things. Either He will answer his prayer, or He will store it for him in the hereafter, or He will divert an equivalent evil from him. This hadith reminds us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to our prayers in ways we might not immediately see or understand. Sometimes the answer to your prayer is delayed because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you what you need, not necessarily what you want at that moment. Other times, the thing you're praying for might be harmful to you in ways you can't foresee. In some cases, the reward for your prayer is being saved for you in the hereafter, where the blessings are far greater and everlasting. We live in a world where we expect instant results, but what if the waiting period is Allah's way of teaching you patience, building your trust in Him, and preparing you to receive something far better than you asked for? Just because the answer hasn't come yet doesn't mean it's not on its way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's timing is always perfect, even if it doesn't align with our expectations. So if you're feeling disheartened because your prayers seem unanswered, remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears every word and every plea. Trust that His plan is greater than yours, and sometimes the greatest blessings come in ways we never imagined. Fourth sign, you're being shown your inner strength. One of the clearest signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you for what you've prayed for is when you start to see yourself growing stronger, not necessarily physically, but mentally and spiritually. This growth often comes after you've been through challenges you never thought you could handle. But look at you now. You've survived, you've learned, and you've grown. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "So do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are true believers." This ayah reminds us that believers, even in the face of hardship, have an inner strength given by Allah that carries them through. When you start seeing yourself handle difficulties with patience and resilience, know that Allah is showing you your own strength as a preparation for the blessings to come. There's also a beautiful hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, while there is good in both. Strive for that which will benefit you. Seek the help of Allah and do not feel helpless." This hadith teaches us that strength is not just about endurance. It's about striving for what is beneficial and trusting in Allah's help along the way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is strengthening you through the trials you face because the blessings you've prayed for will require this strength. It's not about the struggle itself, but about the transformation happening inside you. You might not have seen it before, but with every test, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing the strength and potential He placed in you. Fifth sign, your clarity and peace. One of the most profound signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you for what you've prayed for is when, in the midst of your challenges, you begin to experience moments of unexpected clarity and peace. Even if your situation hasn't fully changed, you start to feel a deeper understanding of why things are happening the way they are, and a sense of peace begins to fill your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, It is who sent down tranquility into the hearts of the believers that they may grow in faith along with their present faith. This ayah reminds us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants believers peace and tranquility, even when they are facing challenges, as a way to strengthen their faith. When you experience these moments of calm in the middle of hardship, it's a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing your heart for the blessings ahead. It's also important to understand that clarity doesn't always come in one big moment. It often arrives in small, quiet reflections when you're praying, reading the Quran, or simply taking a moment to reflect on your journey. These moments are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way of showing you that He is with you, guiding you, and helping you understand the purpose behind your trials. The Prophet Muhammad, SAW, said, "Know that victory comes with patience, relief with affliction, and ease with hardship." This hadith serves as a reminder that clarity and relief will come to those who are patient and trust in Allah's plan, even when the road seems long. These moments of peace and understanding are signs that you are on the right path. So when you start to feel this sense of calm and clarity, even if your situation hasn't changed yet, take it as a sign that Allah is preparing you, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, for the blessings you've been praying for. It's His way of showing you that you are exactly where you need to be, and that everything is unfolding as it should. Conclusion. In life, we often pray for things with all our hearts, and when they don't seem to arrive immediately, it's easy to feel discouraged or question why. But as we've explored today, the waiting period is not a time of silence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly at work, preparing you in ways that you may not even realize. Each of the signs we've discussed is a reminder that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan is perfect, even when we don't understand it in the moment. From the discomfort of growth to the tests of patience and the unseen protection from harm, Allah is aligning everything in your life to ensure that when the time comes, you are fully ready to receive the blessings you've been praying for. And sometimes, those blessings are greater than you ever imagined. But you need to trust the process, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is best for you, better than anyone. The Quran reminds us, so be patient. Indeed, the promise of Allah is truth. Patience, trust, and faith are at the core of every answered prayer. The journey to receiving what you've asked for is just as important as the prayer itself. It's in this waiting period that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is refining you, strengthening your iman, and ensuring that you are prepared to handle what's coming. Before we end, I've noticed that many of our viewers are still watching our videos without subscribing. If you found value in this content, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to continue creating more content like this and ensures that you don't miss out on future videos that can inspire and guide you in your faith journey. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it, as it helps others discover these messages. Together, we can spread this knowledge and bring more people closer to understanding the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan.